This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through Military Broadcast Talk. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I am your host, Eva Fulton. Today is Saturday, May 2nd. I can get it out. The year of our Lord, 2026. And I am going to do a quick shout out to my oldest son, Jordan. He has a birthday on the 5th. I know I'll have a show in a couple of days. I can say it again, but you know, you can't not give your oldest son a happy birthday on, you know, out there to the world, and be on air and just not say it. And you know, Jordan's, you know, been one of the ones who have seen a lot of the things that I've gone through in life. And just the journey has been supportive, has gotten to travel. Him and Joshua both got to, you know, travel to Germany with me and just experience, you know, things that my younger two kids didn't get to enjoy out there, right? And as my being active duty back then, because my younger two kids didn't get to see that part of mom being active duty. They got to see me only in the veteran side of things. So what have I been up to lately? So if y'all been following me on my educational journey, I have started the whole process of submitting my dissertation proposal into the IRB, which is the Internal Review Board at National University. That's where I'm attending for my doctoral program. And I'm pretty excited. My how do I put it? The focus is in public administration. So, you know, it's been a unique journey. I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel and being able to, you know, gosh, you know, guys, this education has been my boyfriend. So it's okay that, and why do I do it? You know, education has been one of those things that has helped me navigate through good times, through bad times. It has saved me and my family from being homeless before. It has been the catalyst that has helped me have a career after I get out of the military. Well, after I got out of the military, because I didn't understand that whole side of what was civilian life supposed to bring us. Because, I grew up so much in the military, and after going through Desert Storm and just a variety of things, but both it's important to understand that educational journeys take different paths for people, and that's where I think I'm very fortunate to be a host on Military Broadcast Radio, because this is where we can not only give veterans a voice, but even military and military spouses a voice as well. So my guest this week, y'all know I watch people on social media, and I reached out. I saw what this lady was doing, and was like, wow, this is inspiring. It is definitely From Pain to Purpose show. And so let me go ahead and jump into reading what she has done. So my guest is Carly Goodell. I hope I didn't ask her I said how to say her name, but I'm hoping hoping that's pronounced right. Carly Goodell. She is the founder of the Plus One Heroes. Maybe I should put my glasses back on so I can read. Let's see. Who is she? We start there before I get into what Plus One Heroes is about. She is a seasoned Army spouse of 19 years, mom of 3, and like I said, the founder of Plus One Heroes. It's a nonprofit dedicated to supporting military spouses and families in times of crisis. A proven leader in the military community, she has served as president of 3 spouse clubs over the past decade and led impactful initiatives, including Santa workshop programs at Fort Knox and Fort Irwin. She's also contributed at the national level through the National Council of Military Spouses Clubs, and currently serves on the board of directors of the United Way of Leavenworth County, as well as the Rees Across America coordinator for Fort Leavenworth. She is a 2-time recipient of the Department of Army Public Service Commendation Medal and was named the Armed Forces Insurance Military Spouse of the Year at Fort Irwin in 2023. And what she did, starting up Plus One Heroes, she's going to get into more, but she has been securing funds so far, about $85,000, to support military families in moments of real need. And most specifically, she says during the government shutdown, they partnered with Rate Foundation and distributed $50,000 in commissary gift cards to more than 500 families across all branches. For the holidays, they received another $10,000 through Rate's Reindeer Ruck program, supporting Fort Leavenworth families facing especially difficult circumstances and recognizing 3 outstanding military families for their service and volunteerism. And they started the Plus One Wish program. Their first wish was Claire's wish for a military child battling terminal brain cancer to return to Hawaii and make one more memory with her family. They raised over $10,000 to make that happen, and she'll be traveling this month. After sharing her story, the Army Golden Knights even stepped in to fulfill her dream of skydiving. Y'all, I'm coming to tears on this. She just wrapped up another campaign for Chief Warrant Officer Burton and his family facing terminal cancer diagnosis. They raised $8,500 to help his spouse and their 3 young children navigate relocating to D.C. from Germany in a matter of days so that he could start treatment at Walter Reed. And now they're raising funds for a Gold Star child who lost her Army dad this past February. And they're going to do a preteen special room makeover for April, the month of the military child. Without further ado.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Thank you, Carly, for joining me. I think when it was during that cheap warrant officer fundraiser thing, that's when I reached out to you, because that just tugged on my heart. And I knew that I needed to help give you a voice with what you're doing, because I have not heard of other organizations doing something, really specific like this. So, hey, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you tell me, how did you get started doing the Plus One Heroes?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Eva. I had mentioned before, coming on to shows like this and talking, it's so important. And I hadn't really been doing it. So having you reach out meant a lot. And it's kind of giving me that little boost I need to get out there and start telling more people about Plus One and everything that we're doing. So Plus One was started during a pretty hard time in my life. And it was after one of those PCS moves across the country. So we're going Kentucky all the way to California, basically depleting savings, and you're going to get it reimbursed, but you're not quite sure when. And we had just made it out to Irwin, and I got a phone call that my dad was in the hospital. And what we first thought was a stroke ended up being a terminal brain tumor. And my dad was not going to be making it out of that hospital. So it was in that moment where I booked that last minute flight. I had to take my youngest daughter with us because I couldn't leave her. My husband was starting a new job and everything. And so we flew home to Illinois. And it was that time that I was sitting in that hospital room with my dad, and I'm holding his hand, and we're sharing some moments, and we are truly being able to say our goodbyes to each other. And I was like overcome with this gratitude that I was able to do that. We were able to throw some money on a credit card, and get me home. And it was that time where I just could not stop shaking the feeling of how many military spouses aren't doing this? How many people can't? Because they either are stationed too far, they're overseas and they just can't, or they don't have the funding to get home before it's too late. And that's when I came up with the idea of Plus One Heroes was started based around that. I wanted these spouses to be able to say goodbye and not make it home for a funeral. I wanted them to get home, and not just to a mom and dad or whatever. Sometimes in the military, as you know, your family is not always blood. Some of these relationships that you have with these other spouses and these neighbors that become your family, that's who you're spending Christmas with, your holidays with. The Army is not giving you any money to go home for your friend's funeral or to see your friend who's battling cancer or something like that. So that is where Plus One was born. That was 2021. We just started Plus One in May of 2025. So we are just now coming up on our 1-year anniversary. And so the idea stayed with me for a couple of years before I could literally bring it to being what it is today. But now that we're doing it and we're starting, it's there's no looking back now. I'm, full force ahead now.
That is awesome. I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. But you're right. I was thinking, even as you were talking, there's you can get a loan for the military person, but I don't recall, and I didn't have a spouse that had that kind of situation, but I don't even know that you can even the spouse can't get a loan, right?
From what I've done in my research, because we talked a little bit about this too. When you say you're going to do something, you want everybody to be supportive, but it comes out sometimes in oh, why would you do that? This already exists. They already have that. The people already do this, and that was one of the first things that people would say is the Army Emergency Relief Loan. That's great.
Right. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that is for immediate family, usually only. And a lot of times with the spouses, it is a loan. And that's the biggest point of the AER loan, is that it's a loan. I'm not wanting people to have to worry about paying anything back. I'm wanting to get the funding, get them on the plane, and get them home. and then there's nothing else left to worry about. So that's the difference in, to me, in my opinion, is the biggest difference for that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense because we already know that a lot of the junior military, as it is, are barely making it. I watch the numbers. There are a lot of junior families who are on food stamps. Even
Hmm.
I have, participated in the uh, Soldiers for Angels, I think is what it's called. The
Hmm.
basket program here in DC. They launched it last year. I was at the inauguration of that at the Basilica. And the people who were going through the line were active duty. It wasn't just for the veterans. These were active duty junior enlisted who were
Yeah.
going through. So you can only imagine the sacrifice if they're following their spouse getting to a high cost area in the beltway on the East Coast. You can only imagine that it's very difficult to how do you go and support a family member at an end time like that and be able to have the funds for it. So tell us about what has your spouse journey been like? I mean, you have lots of accolades, but I
Yeah.
can imagine that it has not been easy. So
No, and
tell us about that.
the it's funny because a lot of the accolades and things like that, like they've all come like within the last couple of years. So like my spouse journey, I was not, super volunteer day one, of course, but I think this journey has taught me that giving back, I always liked volunteering. My dad was a Kiwanis, like he was president of the Kiwanis. Like I just enjoyed doing that. So when I joined as a military spouse, married into this, it was easy for me to get sucked in, I'll say, to leading the FRG or running this thing for free. And a lot of what spouses are doing that they don't realize is that all of that experience, they're becoming leaders, they're future
Right.
leaders. And I don't think that they give themselves that credit. And it took me to being, at a spouse of almost 20 years now. And I'm looking back, and the more I start researching about the lived leadership, it's different. We're learning to lead people who don't have to show up, so we're
Right.
leading without any authority. So we're learning all of the skills that it takes to be a good leader because they don't have to be there. So if you can get somebody to want to come and join your team or be on a spouses club board or go pick up trash on community trash day, lay wreaths, whatever it is, it's how you treat people and how you talk to people and the connections that you're building with these other spouses, because in the long run, like, they don't have to be there. They can quit showing up at
Right.
any time. So I've now taken my lived leadership experience, and I want to share that with younger spouses. I want them to know that everything that they're doing is more than just building their resume, because that's a lot of why people volunteer, get involved or whatever. And yeah, you are building your resume. That's great. But if you don't have the skill set to lead with that resume, it can only take you so far. So I'm really wanting to start sharing my experience and maybe inspiring some other people, because it goes back for me. Like, I was not, we talked about this. I have ADHD. I was not that perfect student. I wasn't like president of the student council. I wasn't, I mean, I was playing sports and getting leadership like that, but like, I was not like that straight A student. And I think for so many of us, we think the only people who can be leaders are that type of person. And so just, reframing the narrative of like, use that to your, use it to your advantage, use your personality and your outgoingness and all that stuff, like, to lead. And that's kind of just how it happened for me. I said
I
one
like how
unqualified yes.
I think, before when you and I were talking before the show, you mentioned that you automatically recognize that you're not great at everything, but you know how to find the people who are great at the things that you're not good at. So you can
Mhm.
still capitalize on your strength. I don't know if you've ever done strength finders before, but strength
Mhm.
finders is a great way to figure out what your strengths are. So how do you tap into those people, and grow those relationships?
Well,
Do you just do
I,
you
I
watch
I took
them?
this is a skill I learned when I was probably, I don't know, when did my husband, like a captain's spouse, right? And my husband's getting ready to take his first command. And I will take this lesson with me wherever we go, because I remember sitting in this little conference room or whatever. And I started talking to some of the other spouses, and, we're kind of joking around and laughing. And it wasn't until later during that night that they put it together that, like, oh, wait, that's your husband. Like my husband's boss is your husband. And they even said, I'm so glad I didn't know that when you sat down. I'm so glad you never said that, because sometimes it's like, sometimes people's spouses like to lead with that, like, oh, I am so-and-so's wife. Like,
Yeah.
I am myself. I am me. I'm Carly. And like, I love that people would get to know me as a person. And then you can't not, you know what I mean? At that point, if
Right.
we're already hitting it off, you can't not like me just because of who my husband is. So I have, even at a
You didn't
earlier
want to
age,
wear his rank, really, Carly?
never. And he barely wears it himself. That's the funny part. But it's just that that was never important to me. It wasn't ever ingrained in me that, like, there's this separation of whatever. Like, if you're a good person, like, I want to know you. I want to hang out with you. And so when I would get the opportunity to be on these spouses club boards and do whatever, like, I always filled the board to people's strengths, and I would know maybe a neighbor, maybe somebody from school, and I'd be like, you're really good at making social media stuff. Like, I love your stuff. And then I would kind of be like, have you ever thought about being on the spouses club? You could be social media. And I would just sell it before they knew what they were saying yes to. And so I would always have a good variety of spouses, and they all came from different places. Because it's also true, if you build your board with, everybody who's just like me, then we're never, like I said, we're not going to have any spreadsheets on our board. Nobody can do it. So you have to build your board with people different than you.
Right.
And, yeah.
That takes a certain talent. Not everybody can be that broad, and see the breadth of what how do you build an organization? Because that's really what it is. You're building an organization that can take care of what we would see as a SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses,
Right.
opportunities, and threats. And you want to be able to build an organization that is going to be successful, not just for you, but for everybody. And so kudos for you for paying it forward, because it's really what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I think the biggest thing, because I grew up, I was on the enlisted side, that the enlisted side misses those kinds of opportunities because it's always about the officers and what they're doing. How do we bridge that gap to get more enlisted spouses? And I think even as the enlisted, even as a veteran, I see that same parallel, because it's the officers who think that, well, they have to be the ones leading, and, enlisted, well, okay, well, you can tag along for the ride, but it's really about the officer show. How do we bridge that?
And I think too, when you start an organization, like, continuing to show up for these families and these people without ever, it's not about your rank. Like, I don't care what your rank is, if you need to get home to say goodbye to a loved one and things like that. But when we are doing things like giving out the commissary cards and all of that stuff, we did it with such, like, dignity that it was like, we're all going through this uncertain time. We're all wanting to know if we're going to have a paycheck. We all struggle. I don't care. This is funny, because the thing I say all the time is, like, especially when I see, like, Alexis or somebody, in the neighborhood, I'm like, we all are working for the Army, right? Like, we all get that same paycheck. Like, I don't care who you are or what your rank is in the Army. Like, none of us are rich. We're not. Like, the military isn't a job you take to be wealthy. Like, and so I always kind of start with that. Like, we all could use some help. Like, this life has not made it easy to really get ahead. And now that's why you see so many spouses that they're 2-income families, just trying to, like, bring in enough money to survive. But I definitely think it goes back to treating people the way that you would want someone to treat you, or a friend or family member, and not making anyone feel guilty, because it's not a handout. It's not a handout. Nothing that we're doing is because, it's because you deserve it. You chose this life of service. You chose to take this journey with your spouse. We know that we weren't going to be, making the big bucks in the Army, but, like, you still support your husband. And so I think all spouses, all all military kids deserve to be recognized when they need it, or helped when they need it, supported.
So how did you start on the journey about raising all of the money that you did to be able to, I mean, that's a big effort to, raise those
Yeah.
kinds of funds to start doing that, with the commissary gift cards. I mean, because here I was in DC, I was part of that government shutdown. I've been a part of
Yep.
several government shutdowns, and it's not easy. You're sweating it. Yeah, I'm on vacation. No, you really, a couple weeks in, you're like, okay, they want a paycheck, and you got to make sure that
Mhm.
you've kept all of your bills. Got to keep some money in the reserves,
Right.
and make sure you can talk with your, lenders for car notes or your mortgage or whatever.
Right.
That's tough, because then even once you've done that part, well, how about the groceries? Because that's really where the rubber meets
Exactly.
the road. And a lot of these families are already living paycheck to paycheck. So I can only imagine, not just for the enlisted, but for the officers too. Then, if you're a one
Yeah.
income family and not getting that paycheck, that's tough. Where's the food,
Yeah.
honey?
Right. And there was a lot of thought that went into what the areas were where we were going to give out those cards to. So when I joke, because we were pretty small, pretty new nonprofit. So it wasn't like this large corporation rate. They just knew about Carly and wanted to help. It was a fellow military spouse, a fellow military spouse of the year. So now that organization, and she knew about what I was doing because we've talked about it. We would go to these conferences, and she kind of knew, like, I wanted to start this. Okay, I started it. This is what we're doing. And I had started giving out locally some gift cards. So I was raising some money, and it was like, I think I had raised like $600 locally and was able to give out some cards right here at Fort Leavenworth. And she reached out, and she, now she works for RATE, kind of like a military liaison between like the military and RATE. And she was like, hey, I want to propose to my company that, like, they give a donation to you to help this initiative that you're doing with the gift cards or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And so when she came back to that, they were going to give us $50,000. I mean, like,
Wow.
that floored me. And it was like, one, we were not prepared. I mean, really, I was like a 2-woman team. It was like me and my neighbor, my spreadsheet type A neighbor who, and so I was like, hey, we're getting this donation. I mean, like, we went 0 to 60 like immediately. And
Wow.
then RATE had kind of divided up where they wanted the gift cards to go. So they knew, like, hey, where it was going to make the most impact. So like DC was one of the areas, because, there's DC, but you touch so many other,
Yeah, Fort
military.
Belvoir, Fort
Yeah.
Meade. You got, a couple
Yep.
of Air Force bases too.
And
Yeah.
so we got some cards out to every single location up there. And we helped a few GS workers too, who were really being affected as well. So
Yeah.
that was nice. And that's the nice thing about doing your own nonprofit. It's like you get to help who you want to help. And I like that.
Yeah.
And so that really took off, and that donation really changed the whole trajectory of Plus One. That gave us that momentum that we needed. It let us be more known, and people started to hear about us. And then we've just kind of taken off from there. And the other campaigns are more like a crowdsourcing campaign.
Yeah.
And that has worked so well. It's because of our military community. Like, that's why it works. Like, I before we were helping the Burton family, I did that campaign for Claire's Wish, which was for Claire, who has a terminal brain tumor. And at the time, like, I had told my team that I would love to get to the point where we were so big that we could do these Plus One wishes. And it could be for a military spouse, battling cancer. It could be for a child. So when Claire's mom posted, I saw it on Facebook. They were a family I knew from Fort Irwin, and her daughter was in school with my daughter. So I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're not ready. I don't have the funding. I have no idea how we're going to do it, but I knew Claire had to be our first Plus One wish. So I just reached out to her mom, and I was honest with her. I was like, hey, like, I want to do this. I don't know what the outcome's really going to be. Like, can you give me some ideas of things she would want? And so she did, and whatever. And like, the power of social media, like sharing that post and seeing it got reshared 50,000 times at one point. And
Wow.
then the Army WTF page picked it up, which I don't even know how that happens. I don't even know how you contact them. So that got it or whatever. And so within a few days, like, I mean, we were at over $10,000. And so not only is she going to Hawaii, which that was her wish, but she wanted to go back to Indiana where her, all of her cousins and extended family. So she's going to Indiana in June for the whole month. And then the skydiving thing, that was another one that just like, it got picked up, and it was a spouse of one of the Golden Knights reached out like and said, hey, I'm going to share this with my husband and see if we can figure out something. So it's the power of our community, like our whole community, the power of social media. And that has just seemed to work for Plus One. And again, I told you, like the videos, things, getting in front of the camera. I started making some videos, which it's like, I didn't want to do that, but like that reaches people. So now I'm like,
you got to get over yourself, Carly. You got to get over yourself.
Yes, my message is more important than however I feel like I look on the camera. And so now I've got more comfortable with that. And same with like the Burton family. It just seems to work that like I build the campaign and then I share it. And then, so now they're sharing it with like all of their people. I'm sharing it with people who don't even know them. And then together it's worked for us. So.
Right. That is awesome. Cause I think that's what I was saying to the Burton family is when I started watching that, and I just knew, my heart says, I got to reach out. I just got to reach out. And because I think people do want to be able to feel like when you watch stories like this happen, and that had to have been tough to even help coordinate. I think from what I understand, they were living in Germany. Yep. He got sick and he got relocated to Walter Reed, but they were still over there.
Well, right? It was like, between everything happened so quickly for them too. So it was like between him getting that diagnosis and them deciding like, this is it was pretty intense that they needed to get him to Walter Reed. The entire family moved from Germany to Walter Reed within like 10 days of getting that diagnosis. So they left all of their belongings. I think they said they packed up with 11 bags. They left their pets. They left the majority of all their stuff. But the biggest part was they left behind their support system. They left all the friends that they had known. They left all the people. So when they got to DC, it was actually another neighbor of mine who reached out and said, hey, is there anything you think you could do? This is the situation. And it was just at that point, they were living out of a hotel. So they were at a hotel near Walter Reed or whatever with 3 young children. And then, they experienced a miscarriage between the travel portion of coming over here. And so that's just, I mean, I don't even think his wife has had, Anna, I don't think she's even had time to grieve that loss because you're in such a whirlwind. So it's like what they've gone through is just awful. So, and they have been so just grateful and thankful. And it's like, I'm like, oh, stop saying I wanted to do this. This is great. And I think because of the momentum of their, the campaign just being shared so far, near and far, that the Fisher House got a hold of them. And so they were moved into a Fisher House, like out of a hotel and into a Fisher House.
Good.
Yep. And then the USO picked up on them and they sent them they sent the whole family to Disney World for a vacation this past month. So it's just like, regardless of did I think that like my little campaign was going to impact them immensely, no, but by sharing it and getting the word out, other larger organizations did pick up on it. And so that was really cool. And so
it's a good kind of snowball, that is called the snowball effect. So it's beautiful to see the snowball effect on both of these families so far. So who are you helping next?
So we're currently working on, we started this one in April for Month of the Military Child. And there is a local girl here at Fort Leavenworth. She lost her dad back in February. And so I knew I wanted to do something for Alice is her name. Mm-hmm. And she's a preteen, like she's in 7th grade. She goes to school with my son. And that age is just so funny. It's hard to be like, oh, what could we do? Like, they're not like the typical little kids and you can just, give them great toys and whatever. So I talked to her mom and we came up with the idea of like giving Alice a bedroom makeover because they're going to be staying here at Leavenworth for the foreseeable future, and they have their own house. So she has her room that she's had, and it's more like the little girl room. And so we decided we were going to give Alice a preteen makeover and take her room to the next level. And what's really cool about what's going on with Alice is that I put out a call on Facebook like I do. And I just said, do I know any interior designers or anybody like that? And of course, you're going to see a pattern here. Another military spouse locally was tagged in that post. And so her and I connected, and her name is Kristen Farrington Dawson, and she owns an interior design company out of New York. So she's a big deal. Yeah, it's called Kristen Farrington Interior Designs. And so Kristen is going to team up with us, and she's going to bring her expertise into this whole thing. And so she's she's got like the color swatches and the wallpaper and all the things. So it just kind of took it to the next level. And so Alice's campaign is right about at $3,000 too already. And so she didn't need new furniture. She didn't need all that stuff, but she did want just to like really bring this room from little girl to a teen sanctuary for Alice. So that's what we're doing right now.
I would, so my story, I didn't share this before, both of my ex-husbands passed away. So I became
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost my first ex-husband in 2014. He was an Army veteran. My second ex-husband was not, but he passed away in 2015. So I know this whole aspect of what, you're having to change what you thought about life, right? You're having to change this role. But I saw my kids, go through this very different experience. And it is tough when they're younger because they now don't have their dad around, right? And so your friend's mom, please feel free to share my information with her because it is tough now becoming you're a single parent, not by choice, and feelings, this role of things, not just as mom, but, kind of partly dad too. But how do you help navigate these things for your children? Never in a million years did I think that I'd have 4 kids with no dads around. It's tough because it's not the way I imagine life to be. And it is tough. It's really, really tough. And you don't really get time to grieve because you become focused on doing things for your kids. But hey, you got to hurry up and take care of yourself, because if I don't hurry up and take care of me, just like what you were talking about with the Burtons, that, she's not getting that chance to grieve the loss of, this pregnancy loss, but the same thing with this young girl's mother. Because
Jenna would be fabulous too for you to talk to sometime, just because the way she handled every step of this situation, she's so smart. And she's a seasoned military spouse. And I kept thinking though, and we would have these conversations and I would say, Jenna, you knew to fight for that, or you knew to advocate for this. What about, I could just imagine the amount of spouses that they would just say, you need to do this. And they'd say, okay, because they don't know better. So I see a future for her just being this, like this voice for these younger spouses who maybe are going to have to go through, unfortunately, something she went through, because she kept saying, how did you know? You don't know until you go through it. How was I going to know? You know what I mean? But at least she knew to question some things, and she would be a very good advocate for other people.
I'd love to have her on. Yeah, feel free to share. I think this is how we help each other. I've been watching some studies that are starting to come out about military spouses, that the suicide rate is going up for the spouses side of things as well. So we've got to be able to, I say an idle mind is the devil's playground. Before the show, you shared that, you're learning this part of your life on this nonprofit, but
Mhm.
y'all are fixing to go into the retirement side of things for your husband. And what is he going to do? You know, there's
Yeah.
an opportunity for you to have that surge, and my recommendation, he can focus on learning how to put the veteran hat on and go through that transition from that veteran perspective, because when he starts going through all those VA appointments,
Mhm.
that's a job in and of itself, seriously, and nobody
Yeah.
told me these things when I got out in 2000. uh it's a journey. It really is. So this is going to
Yeah.
be maybe that opportunity time for you to get to shine as a spouse and take on that role of things, the charge role, that where you've had to shrink. I'm going to say in some ways kind of
Mhm.
had to shrink as the spouse, but now you get to shine, and he can kind of take his foot off of the gas a little bit, or change gears, and he's putting it into the veteran side of things. And just breathing, just really
Mhm.
breathing, because he doesn't have to be on stage as a military officer anymore. So
Yeah. It's an identity shift for
it
sure.
is. It
And I
is.
think
But
that's a lot of
but for
what's
both
going
of
on with the
y'all.
spouses. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
for both of y'all. And I think there's, lots of things are happening in the spouse world of things. I've seen it as a federal employee. There's more emphasis on the spouses getting hired, because they recognize that, the constant moving has been an issue, where they
Mhm.
can't get their career going once they get the kids settled. And what do they do? Uh, so, anyways, there's lots of hope for things.
Yeah.
So, where do you see the direction of Plus One Heroes continuing?
I want to continue on the same trajectory that we're on. And that is why I need to get out here and tell people about it, because my goal is to have a military spouse, or not an advisor. What am I thinking?
Liaison?
Like, yeah, like we're trying to have, like, I call it a plus one warrior around every installation, or every
Oh,
state would be the
an
goal.
ambassador.
Ambassador, thank you. I was flaking.
Yeah.
So we call them warriors, and so slowly I'm adding warriors to represent different states, and that way, like, if you hear of something going on and you're in Georgia and you know of this situation or this family and whatever, and then they can let me know, and then we can start a campaign, and we can make sure that campaign's getting shared, like, right there locally in all of those Facebook groups or whatever, and then I share it
Right.
here, far and wide. And that seems to really be working. So I hope to just continue to grow in that way. And just
Awesome.
as people hear about things. Yeah. And my long-term goal is to just eventually get that funding secured that I need to be able to have that money on hand, the funding on hand, to send spouses home for final goodbyes. That's really why I started this and where I want to go back to. But that's expensive funding. So yeah, it's my goal.
But it sounds like you've got a pretty good dual track side of
Yeah.
things. You've got the
Yep.
constant
Yep.
mission, but then you have these, these one-off,
Other
I want to say
campaigns.
one-offs,
Yeah.
right? You got these other campaigns that are very specific for those particular families or situations. So I went ahead, everybody, and I have shared Carly's website, that is www.plusoneheroes.org. That's heroes, HEROES. Some people don't know how to spell heroes. I'm just saying, I'm
Mhm.
helping them out. Plusoneheroes.org. And I don't know. I didn't look at the website. Is that where an application they can fill out if they need help? Is that out there as well?
Yes, we're working on getting something to where if you knew of family or whatever, but if that's not up yet, you can always just email me, and that's Carly Goodell at plusoneheroes.org, or find us on Facebook. We post most of everything on our Plus One Heroes Facebook page. And if you're not following us, like, please just follow us. So the more people who know about us, the more people we're able to help.
Hopefully I got the email right. Carly Goodell at +oneheroes.org.
Yep, that's
Okay.
it.
Very
Yeah.
good. And you said they can find you on Facebook. +oneheroes, that's where I was even messaging with you. I didn't know your name until I got the email.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's her name.
That's funny. That's
I
funny.
wasn't even sure who I was talking with, but
I
it's
love that.
okay. You know, I as you could tell, I was clearly focused on what your mission was.
Yeah.
That was the neatest thing. All right. So what's the one question I should have asked you but didn't so far?
Well, one of the things I know you and I mentioned earlier is that I really am also trying to empower other military spouses to use all of this, everything they've learned as a military spouse. They are becoming leaders. They are growing, and they don't give themselves enough credit for that. So I hope that in the future that I'll be able to provide free workshops or something along those lines where I could kind of just inspire them to go out and say yes to something that maybe they don't feel like they're qualified for. Because I truly feel that you don't need to be confident to be capable. And that's exactly how I got to where I am today. It started from one unqualified yes, taking on the role of a spouses club president. And from there, it just grew. And it really taught me a lot about running a nonprofit and leading people. And I want to pass that on.
I think it's important. I know when I got out of the military, I got involved with the organizations involved around the school system. So, like the PTA, got involved with that, with Cub Scouts, even became like, a leader at a Cub Scout group. That was a little different. Not that I wasn't qualified because I had all of my military skills, but here I was a female running a Cub Scout unit, but it's okay.
I see that more and more now, and I'm not surprised.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And of course,
but
we
it's
make
important.
leaders.
Yeah, it is. So I totally agree. Get out there. That's, I think, really important, even on the transition side of things. Getting out there. There's lots of nonprofits that help you get involved in your local community, because y'all are going to you're getting out of, well, your husband's getting out of the military, retiring pretty soon, and you don't even know where you're going, but at least you have this skill set of getting involved with nonprofits is going to be that leg up for you on how do you start feeling at home in your new home. And I think that'll help out for transition, not just for you and your husband, but for your kids as well. And it's going to be important for him to get involved in the local community as well. And because he's used to the leadership role side of things.
Yeah.
So get out there and, even on the nonprofit side, veteran service organizations are a great way to do that and be involved. Auxiliary for you, you got the auxiliary programs for most of these veteran service organizations.
Yeah.
So fabulous. I can even see 4:48. We still have a few more minutes. Anything else you want to cover?
I will just put it out there too that everything that I feel like that's gotten us to where we are today, it's because of collaboration and partnership and military spouse helping out other military spouses and anything like that. So if there is anybody out there who thinks that we could have a great collab, do something together, like with Plus One Heroes, I am always open to working with other nonprofits and working with other organizations to do good. So feel free to reach out and shoot me an idea.
Okay. That sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Carly, for joining. This will be shared, of course, on all of our platforms through YouTube, Military Broadcast Radio, on X, my own channel. You can follow us on Military Broadcast Radio, we have an app. So feel free to share
Yeah,
the app with your other friends.
I definitely will.
It's easy to download, and you can watch both the live and the recorded shows on there. And we're always looking for other people to come on with guests on some of the other shows, or hey, we'll be happy to teach you how to be a host too.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This
All
was
right.
great. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully you have lots of success. I hate saying that there is a need
Mhm.
for this, but it's life. It is,
Yeah.
that's really
Yep.
the sad part about it is life. But if there's not a nonprofit that's filling that void, then you're not, like you and I talked about before the show, you're not reinventing the wheel. There is a gap,
Mhm.
and you've
Mhm.
got to fill that gap. So I wish the best for you,
Thank you.
and continued success helping the families that are defending our nation. Because if it's not us, then who?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Carly. So everybody, I have my list of upcoming guests has picked up the tempo. Next Saturday, Daryl Hartley, he's my co-host on the Revivalist Radio Show on Mondays. He's got some stuff happening in life that we thought, you know what, we just needed to go ahead and get Daryl to come back on again. He's got got a new adventure he's going on, and we have plenty to talk about there. I am gonna take the Saturday off before Mother's Day weekend. I'm going to hit the trail. Y'all know me. I need some trail time. So I am going to find a trail somewhere, and I will be hiking, taking some pictures. I'll make sure I share, because I do believe that, work life balance is necessary. If y'all have been following me on social media, especially on Facebook or Instagram, about my commute travels, I got to the house last night. I stay here at my dad's, and I was exhausted, just absolutely exhausted. So I took care of my self care this morning. And, next weekend, need some time away. No computers. Sorry, folks, no computers. The following Saturday, Leroy Pinckney Jr. out of Texas is going to join me May 23rd. Saw him post something on LinkedIn, and I was like, you know what? I need to give this guy a shout out and have him on the show. He is starting on a new journey. Part of it chosen, part of it not chosen. So Leroy is going to join me. He's going to share his pain to purpose story and be able to, hopefully we can help him on this journey too, folks. So y'all want to make sure that you listen in on that show. Observing Memorial Day, May 30th. So May 21st, I'm going to back up a little bit. May 21st, I'll be hosting our Memorial Day ceremony at the Department of Housing and Urban Development where I work. I'm very honored to be able to put that together. But Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to find some place to volunteer and help out in the community. I really enjoyed it last year, putting flags out, and that was out there at National Cemetery. I don't know where I'll be that weekend, but I will be out there volunteering. If you want to be on my show, reach out, join me. I have June 6th open. I've been talking to a few folks, trying to figure out what is going to work on their schedule. And so June 6th is open for anybody to go ahead and share your pain to purpose story. And if y'all don't know, I do work on it's like, think of the whole wooden chair, the old wooden chair. It's got 4 very sturdy legs on that chair. And if we are sitting on that chair, The 4 legs represent physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual pain. When one of those legs starts getting a little weak and you feel things kind of teeter-tottering a little bit, that's when you know that you've got to get a good foundation and get things figured out. So feel free to reach out to me, eva@mbradio.us, and join me on June 6th. Somebody else that I found on LinkedIn, she has a book that is out. Why am I brain cramping all of a sudden? Something injustice. Unjustly served. That's what it is, because I actually have her page popped open on my LinkedIn. Paula Kemp is joining us. Paula's got a powerful story. And like I said, she's the author of Unjustly Served. And this is going to get into the very serious topic of military sexual trauma. Lots of work still needs to be done in that area. And I'm so super stoked that we have more of us as females who are finding our voices, and we are sharing our mission. And so Paula Kemp will be joining us on June 13th. All the other dates after that are open, folks. I just don't have that much room on my little screen here to be able to add more dates on there. If there's a date that works for you, feel free to reach out to me and we will get you scheduled. It's just really a conversation, folks. It can meet, this show airs out to a pretty wide audience, but it's just you and me having a conversation. And I, really hope that what you feel is you're heard. And, that's, I think, the biggest thing for a lot of people is if I can help somebody else because somebody else has shared their story and this has turned from a pain to purpose thing. If it helps me and it helps you and it helps somebody else, then that's how our People Garden grows. That's how we know that the mission of MBR is working, because we are giving veterans and spouses and active duty a voice. And that's what matters the most, because it's when we're quiet, it is when we're shrinking, then in my personal opinion, that's when the devil knows that he is still killing to destroy our happiness and joy, and we're not being able to find the healing that we really all deserve. One last note, just remember, I'm also a host on the Revivalist Radio Show Mondays with Dara Hartley at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is us, so we both happen to be Catholic, but we both happen to have a very serious mission of helping. Really, it's kind of a veteran mission, right? We do have, it's a veteran ministry, I think is the right terminology I should use. Veteran ministry to help turn moral injury into moral healing and recovery. So join us. We've been reading Genesis, and Monday we're covering Genesis chapter 41. And, we're seeing what's next with Joseph's story. It's going to keep getting interesting. So feel free to join us. Look forward to seeing you guys. Have a great weekend. And feel free to come back and join any of the shows on Military Broadcast Radio, giving veterans a voice. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.